Welcome to the Curiosity Chamber.
Fair warning, I ate a big steak hour prior to this conversation, and I got a little sleepy, so I drank some caffeine, so you have been warned. With me today is a man named James Bond, and, when I reached out to him, I was kind of suspicious if it was the James Bond, but it wasn't the Octopussy James Bond. But this man he's an author of an award-winning book, Brain Glue, and how selling becomes much easier by making your ideas sticky. So let me introduce you guys. This is James Bond. I appreciate you being here, James.
Hey, Jay, thanks for having me. Love your podcast. It rocks.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's nice of you to say. Is James Bond a common name?
Yeah, I don't know. This is the only time I've heard it in the last 5 minutes. I'm
So
this. I'm walking with my wife into there's a whole location that has a church on it, and it was just a really cool area. And so we're walking up, and there's, I guess, a security guard and his wife there. And he says, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, "Not bad." I said, he says, "Hey, I'm Joe, and this is my wife, Mary." I said, "Hey, how's it going?" "I'm James, this is my wife, Pam." Then I pause for a second. I go, "Actually, my name's James Bond." He starts laughing,
yeah.
which is common, by the way. I could come back a year from now and walk across the lawn, and he'd still remember my name.
Oh,
Okay.
it's such a good opener. That it's like the perfect name. It's such a good opener. You can get yourself into anything with a name like that. People will think you're kidding, and you're like, "No, I'm not kidding. My name is actually James Bond." So.
Well, I think that's why I say James I. Bond, so at least it's a little easier to find, because people look up for my book and they say James Bond, and Sean Connery beats
Yeah.
me for good reason. But I think it's because my name is James Bond that got me into Brain Glue. Is the whole idea of the fact that there are certain things that you could say and people remember it. You only say it once, you know?
Is that where it all started?
I think so. I mean, I didn't think of that, but now that I'm looking back after I put it together, I realized that, because that's what brain Go is all about, the fact that you can say something,
Yeah.
like rhyme is a good example. Um, Jack and Jill went up the
Hill.
hill. We all know that, okay?
Right. Right.
And we could have heard it like 10, 20, maybe 50, 60 years ago. Like for me, I'm old. And yet we remember it like it was yesterday. There were certain things that stick to the brain. James Bond sticks to the brain. So I didn't
Does.
think of it until after I created the book and started talking to people. And and people laugh, like they laugh off, and it's like, "What's your name?" "James Bond."
So,
But
yeah.
it's
So continuing
powerful.
with the origin story, let's like. So why? Why did you get here? Why brain glue? Like.
So Brain Glue is about emotional selling. I'm originally from Montreal. I've lived in Southern California for about 40 years. In fact, we named our middle daughter Lauren Asia, L.A. So we know as soon as she was born, we know how long we've been here. And in Montreal, I worked my way up with an advertising agency and eventually won major clients like Kraft Foods, Timex Watches, Avon Cosmetics, Seagram's, our world headquarters is there. And so I had the opportunity to win the anti-drug campaign in America with powerful, logical reasons why you shouldn't do drugs. And I lost, and I deserved to lose. And I lost to this guy who created an ad with a guy holding an egg saying, "This is your brain." And he cracks the egg and drops it into a sizzling frying pan. "This is your brain on drugs." Any
Yeah.
questions?
Seen
It's
it.
a fabulous ad. I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
just really, most people who've ever seen it remember it. And I realized two things. First is it was infinitely more powerful than my ad. Mine was just logic. This is emotion. But the second thing was it was emotional selling, and I don't know how to do emotional selling. I went to school. They don't talk about it in school. I checked for books. No book talks about it. And so I created a box. I put it right next to my computer and I call it the passion box. And I wrote on a 3x5 card, "Your brain on drugs," so I'd remember the ad. Whenever I saw something or heard somebody say something that was really emotionally powerful, rather than trying to overanalyze it, I would write it on a 3x5 card or tear it out of a magazine if it was there and put it in my passion box. Okay. After about 10 years, we moved to Southern California and I met John Gray. And John Gray wrote a book called Men, Women, and Relationships. And he was telling me people who read the book were blown away. They said, this is the most incredible relationship book I've ever read. But he was frustrated because almost nobody was buying his book. So he got this crazy title he was telling me. He said, why don't I call it Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? And then just refer to it a little bit throughout the book. Guess what happened? He went from 20,000 books sold to 50 million, not
Yeah, I've
50,000.
actually heard of that book that you
Oh,
mentioned
yeah,
it.
I know.
Yep. That's
And it's
crazy.
because it grabs people's attention and they go like,
Yeah.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus? What? And
Yeah.
so when I got home, I was going to put the book in my box, in my passion box, and I stopped and I went, wait a second, this is a metaphor. Men are not really from a different planet. Although I think a lot of women think we're from a different planet. We kind of act that way sometimes, you know?
Yeah, they might be onto something.
Yeah, for sure. I know we actually are from a different planet. We didn't
Especially
realize.
you Canadians.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, hey.
Hey, opa.
But anyway, but what happened was I realized, like, wait a second, this is a metaphor. You know, I mean, he's basically saying men are so different from women that it's almost like we're from a different planet. You know, and that's what Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus basically says. And then I realized, like, wait a second, is metaphor the secret to emotional selling or one of the secrets? So I took the passion box and I dumped it on my bed because after 10 years I had a ton of examples of samples. And I realized that I discovered that metaphors is one of 14 brain triggers at the heart of emotional selling. I thought my brain was going to explode. Like, did I just figure out something that nobody figured out? And so yeah, really. And so I had these three guys who had a construction company who after 10 years I was a client. They were a client, and after 10 years they had $2 million of sales. It's not bad, $2 million of sales, right? Ha! In 1 year, by applying brain glue, they went from 2 to 10 million in sales, and they reached 32 million in sales 2 years later. All because I was able to apply this. You know, it freaked me out. And it's like we had an online company, we had an online product we were selling, a pet supplement. And, I remember and I started applying brain glue to this. And it really freaked me out. It scared me actually because I was making so much money. You know, would you believe it? You get scared because you start making more money than you're used to.
Is
And
it
I remember
because
calling
you're
my
afraid
wife and I
of
said,
losing it, the money? That
well,
you
it feels like it feels like you're breaking the law. You know, like, did I just do something that's illegal? Like, how come? So I called my wife and I said, "Hey, Pam, American Express just charged our credit card $1,000." And she said, "Well, turn it off." I said, "No, wait a second. We just made 10,000, 11,000, 12,000. Hang on, I'll call you right back." When I told her how much money we were making with our online supplement, she said, "Well, spend more." It's
Yeah,
my
open
wife.
another one.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if you're making that much money, then spend more if that's what it takes.
Fill up my car.
Exactly. But it freaked me out because it's like I was working as a consultant, but suddenly I'm making like over $1 million on this supplement that I was selling online. And it freaked me out. It's like it felt like, am I breaking the law or something? I mean, am I doing something illegal? After a while, like now I'm okay. Hey, send money. It's fine.
Right.
But it's because you get so used to it. I mean, I wasn't a millionaire. And then suddenly money starts coming in and it freaked me out. And I started realizing that because I was a consultant, I could apply it for clients. And now I
Yes.
do work with the Small Business Administration in Southern California. I'm a very popular speaker there, a coach for like people who are starting a business or trying to get into business or in business too. I mean, I work with some pretty big businesses as well. But it's fun because I share it with people and they come back and they say, "Man, I never made so much money before when I started applying it." It's amazing. I mean, it's like, so here's some examples, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So and I didn't train them to do this, but so many people do this that when you start to understand how brain glue works, you realize, whoa, I can start applying this too. So there's a mom and son in Utah, and they're watching Shark Tank, and they love Shark Tank. And so they're thinking, like, it would be really cool if we can invent the product and find someone to manufacture it for us and maybe make some money and hopefully get on Shark Tank. So the mom is so the mom has lots of trouble. She's having having trouble going to the bathroom. She's constipated. I mean, they're trying to come up with a product, and so a doctor tells her, well, if you when you're on the toilet, if you could raise your feet like 6 to 8 inches off the ground, it actually helps. It changes the shape of your body and makes it easier going to the bathroom. I don't want to get too much into this, but and so she tried it and it worked. And then so they're talking, her and her son, and they're going like, wouldn't it be cool if we made a little stool that you can wrap around the toilet, and then you can, whenever you're on the toilet, you slide it out and you can put your feet on this thing. That would be really cool. So they found a manufacturer who would make it for them. Then it cost them like $6 or something each one. They sold it for $20. And so they said, we want to come up with a cool name though. So it's a toilet stool. We're not going to call it the toilet stool. That's kind of a stupid name. So they're thinking about it. What's another name for toilet? Potty, like the
Hmm.
porta potty and all that stuff.
Sure.
Potty. Oh, cool. Well, you're kind of squatting. Squatty potty. Let's call it the squatty potty.
Oh, nice.
Sales exploded within 2 years. This is a mom and son with no business experience. And in less than 2 years, they generated $100 million of sales. $100 million.
That's wild.
Okay. All because I was in the hospital about 2.5 months ago. I got heart surgery. Not fun.
No,
But
Jesus.
yeah, really. It was just, let me tell you, it was freaky. But when they do heart surgery, by the way, they slice your rib cage and they pull it apart and then they put it back together. It's
Well, that's nice of them.
oh
Put it
yeah,
back together at least.
thank goodness, yeah, really. But when I was in the hospital, so a nurse was talking to me and she said, "So what do you do?" So I said, "Well, I wrote this book called Brain Glue," and I started telling her about Squatty Potty. And then she says, "Oh, I got to tell you this." She says, "I'm a nurse, so I know you want to raise your feet when you're on the toilet. So I got a little stool at my home. But I was in a store and I saw a Squatty Potty and I said, 'Oh, that's so cool. I love the name. I got to buy it.'" And so she bought it. Even though she has a stool at home, she bought it because she loves the name.
Really?
Just blew my mind. But
Wow.
yeah, it's really cool. So how
So
would
is
you
that
like
the is
to?
that that emotional attachment to it then?
Yes, it's
Right.
emotional selling. It's emotional attachment. You relate to it, and then it just takes off like gangbusters. So, how would you like to invent a product, and then somebody who you hate steals it from you, and they make a fortune, but you starve to death? Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Let's get right on that.
Yeah, really, not fun at all.
Yeah.
So, uh, so what do you call it? I got to tell you the stories. So Post Cereals is competing with Kellogg's,
Right.
and the
They
head
made
of
a
Post.
Netflix documentary or a Netflix show about that, I think.
Uh, yeah, I think there was. I
It was
saw
a
a
very
History
fine
Channel.
show.
So History Channel has some pretty good shows on what happens with them. But so the head of Post Cereal says we got to come up. He's telling his people we got to come up with another product, besides cereal, because Kellogg's is knocking the socks off us. And so they said let's invent something. And so they invented this little cake that's got jam inside it, like strawberry, blueberry, raspberry inside it, and you put it in your toaster. And when it pops up out of the toaster, you got this nice warm cake, right? Decides to call it Country Squares. And 3 months before he launched Country Squares, you already know what it is. 3 months before he launched Country Squares, the head of Post promoted it to the media, and so the head of Kellogg sees this and goes like, "Oh wow, what a great product! You put it in the toaster and it comes out of the toaster. Oh, guys, we got to make this. You need to figure out how to make that product, and we got to come up with a better name." So he's thinking, okay, so it pops out of the toaster, so we got to call it Pop something. And back then, Andy Warhol was really famous as an
Yeah,
artist, so they called him
yeah,
a pop artist. So why don't we call it Pop Tarts?
yeah.
They
There it
launched it
is.
a week before Country Squares, okay, of course, and it exploded. They became the hottest selling product they ever had. They ran out of product. They couldn't make it fast enough. So he ran an apology in newspapers saying, "We're so sorry, but just hang on for a couple of days and we'll have more Pop Tarts there." Nobody bought Country Squares, and Pop Tarts exploded in sales. After a few months, Post stopped selling Country Squares because no one was buying it. But Pop Tarts became the hottest selling product, one of the hottest selling products in the world. In fact, last year I saw this. I was reading this article. Last year they sold 3 billion Pop Tarts, and of
That's
course,
insane.
Post doesn't sell Country Squares, even though they invented it.
Now, in a
That's why
paradoxical world, do you think if the farms came out first with their treat, that they would have been successful, or do you think Pop Tart still would have
Pop
dominated?
Tarts
Just
would have been successful. And the reason is, so here are two brain glue tools. Okay, there's one tool that's called sense elevation, which is a sense that you hear. We have like a pop, pop, a plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is! Alka Seltzer. As they had, just they had "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Know that song
oh
by
yeah,
Kurt
yeah.
Cobain?
Snack, crackle, pop.
Yeah, Rice Krispies, exactly.
Yeah, of
It's like
course.
sounds and all that stuff. And so it pops out of the toaster. So pop, it's got to be pop. We got to, it's the sound that everybody can relate to. And then, pop art, it's a pop artist, Andy Warhol, that's called anchoring, where you're taking something that's already in the brain and you're just twisting it a little bit. You don't have to twist it. But like, let's say I'll show you how anchoring works. Let's say you're creating, well, there's just lots of examples of it. Let's say you're creating a dandruff shampoo. Well, you want to come up with a name. So, what's a name that's already inside people's heads that has to do with dandruff shampoo? Well,
Flakes.
Head and Shoulders.
Yeah,
There's this thing that we do with kids: Head and Shoulders, knees and toes, eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. And so they went, well, everybody knows that. Why don't we call it Head and Shoulders? You
true.
know?
Could have used Frosted Flakes for that even.
Well, yeah, it's true. But yeah, it just it takes off like gangbusters when you use it. I mean, I'll show you how powerful it is. Okay, O.J. Simpson was on trial for murdering his wife and her boyfriend. Okay, and Johnny Cochran, his attorney, one of his friends, told him, "You should tell people, have OJ fake that he's trying to glove on the glove of the murderer, and
Yeah,
it doesn't fit him, and then just tell the jury if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit." Okay. And then so they found him not guilty. And after the trial, I remember two of the jurors were being asked, with all that evidence against OJ, there was so much evidence. How come you found him not guilty? And one of them said it while the other one was nodding her head in agreement. And she said, "We knew if the gloves don't fit, you must acquit. The
that's
glove didn't
crazy.
fit. We had to acquit." You know,
A
I
jingle.
probably would have said, OJ's a great actor. Remember that. Okay. You have to love how he faked the glove.
Uh-huh.
Rhyme. But just when we start to realize how this works, these tools, you start to realize like, wow, this is really powerful. I mean, rhyme is a good example. If the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit. Think squatty potty is a rhyme. Famous Amos, he had almost no money and he became a multimillionaire with the name Famous Amos. 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it's these brain worms or these earworms that just get stuck in there.
Yeah, exactly. Pooper scooper.
Yeah, poop.
How
Hey,
about
that's
lean
good.
cuisine or shake and bake? I mean, there are a lot of cool things. Reese's Pieces. So you start to realize rhyme is actually a pretty cool tool. And these are some of the tools that are really powerful that when you start applying it. So we had these two guys in Southern California, um, and they wanted to make a juice that's all natural. That's really, really good juice. Well, the number one all natural juice was called Odwalla. It was owned by Coca-Cola. Okay, and but these guys, they didn't have a lot of money, but they wanted to launch this product, and so they thought it would be really cool. These guys would sit naked in their backyard all the time, so they thought it was really
Nice.
cool.
All right.
So they said, why don't we call it Naked Juice? But they didn't have lots of guts. Okay, so they
Is that
thought,
for
let's
real?
not.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so they said, let's not make it really big on the labels. But they sold Naked Juice and it sold really well. So eventually they hired a graphic artist to make labels that worked on all the labels that it really, all the different products they had, that they work really well. And so the graphic artist said, we got to take the word naked and make it big across the top. And they went like, I don't know, you think we should? Yeah, 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 that's great. Their sales exploded with the name Naked across
Yeah,
the top.
I'd
And it
buy a couple. I thought it was naked because the ingredients they used, like, was clean, but I
well,
maybe it goes both ways.
that's the second meaning for it. Yeah,
For
it's a
sure.
trigger word. naked is a trigger word that wakes you up. I mean, I say, brain glue works so powerfully. It's like a naked guy running through your backyard. If a naked guy was running through your backyard, would you notice him? Yeah. Well, that's how brain
Uh,
glue works. We
yes.
have. I work with. Um, um, I worked with. What's his name? The richest guy. Who is the richest guy in the world?
Jeff Bezos?
No, after him. Um,
Elon Musk?
yeah, just between those two guys, I'm losing my mind.
Bronson?
Yeah,
Richard
anyway, I'll
Bronson?
think of his name in a second. Everybody knows him. Um, shoot, I can't
James
remember.
Bond?
Yeah, James Bond. That's right. But he has a great phrase, and his phrase is, "Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked."
Only
Okay.
when the tide
What he's,
goes out.
what he's basically saying is, only when times get tough do you realize who's capable and who's not capable. But if he said that, you go,
Oh,
yeah, okay,
Warren
fine.
Buffett?
Warren Buffett. Yeah, sorry, Warren Buffett. Sorry, Warren, I'm forgetting your name. But I
Warren
work with
listens
him
to
and his
this. We
team, and
love you.
yeah. Well, because I'm one of America's leading behavior management specialists, so they brought me in when he started buying companies, which is really cool. But anyway, but the point is, he uses phrases like this. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. And it's like, whoa, what? And so it's um, it's trigger words, and there are certain words that wake up your brain.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
the
Carrie
imagery as
Smith.
well.
Pardon?
The imagery as well is just
Oh yeah,
so
yeah. Well,
depictive that you can see it.
would you call, like your podcast dirty, the dirty podcast? Would we use the word dirty? And yet we got Dirty Dancing, Dirty Harry, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. We got Carrie Smith, and Carrie Smith was selling fans, really big fans that you put in barns and stuff like that. You could put in warehouses. In a barn, you're not going to have air conditioning. You put up a fan. And so he called it HVAC fans. I even forget what it was. HVLS, sorry, high volume, low speed fans,
Gotcha.
HVLS fans. And a friend of his was telling him, like, so describe your fan to me. He says, it's a big fan. It's a big ass fan. And his friend
I
starts
like that.
laughing and says, well, why don't you tell everybody that these are big ass fans? So he ran an ad for big ass fans and sales exploded. So he decided to change the name of his company to Big Ass Fans. And his sales, he couldn't believe it. They skyrocketed so much that after 15 years, because he was making so much money, he decided he wanted to sell the company. And they bought the company from him for $500 million. And he started basically from scratch. But it's because of Big Ass Fans. In fact, what happened with Big Ass Fans was, so he's selling fans like crazy. And then he figures, why don't I start selling other products too? But then he realized as he's selling other products that it's distracting him from fans. So he decides to stop everything and just focus on fans. And, he's got like tons in warehouses and all this stuff. And it takes off like gangbusters. But logically, he was calling it HVLS fans, high volume, low speed. Okay. But logic doesn't work as well as emotion. You call it big ass fans, and people go like, "Whoa, big ass fans!"
It's
Yeah,
gonna resonate with a lot more people, I'll tell you that.
yeah, exactly. Well, so this lady comes up with a play, an off Broadway play about women's rights and how hard it is sometimes being a woman. And so she's thinking of a name and what's a good name for it, and she decides to call it the Vagina Monologues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's taken off like gangbusters. HBO has a series, has a special on the Vagina Monologues, just talking about her play. She's made millions of dollars from it, all
Crazy.
because of the name. I mean, so what does Warren Buffett? Um, sorry, not Warren Buffett. What
Another
is
rich
what?
man we're talking about? Another rich man we're talking
Yeah,
about here?
a guy who became a billionaire. Okay,
Became a billionaire.
okay. Um,
Mark Cuban.
nah, bigger than Cuban.
Bigger than Cuban.
Yeah, Branson,
Yeah,
Richard
Richard
Branson.
Branson. Virgin Mobile or Virgin
Yeah,
Airlines,
Virgin,
whatever?
Virgin
Yeah,
everything.
Virgin.
I like
Yeah,
to
there you
say,
go.
what does Richard Branson, Madonna, and olive oil have in common? The word virgin, virgin olive oil.
Nice.
Madonna, like a virgin. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
blockbuster song for her. And so Richard Branson he dropped out of school. He didn't never finish high school, and he borrowed some money from his dad because he didn't have a lot of money, and he started a magazine for musicians. And the magazine did really well, so he decided with a friend, why don't we start a record company? But we don't have a lot of money, so we got to come up with a really cool name. So why don't we call it Virgin Records? He started winning people like the Rolling Stones became a client of his and others, big bands because of Virgin Records. And he went like, geez, the name Virgin is so good. I got to trademark the name for all these other things. Virgin Trucking, Virgin Hotels, Virgin Airlines now, Virgin Galactic, and all that stuff. And he's become a monster of a billionaire because of the word virgin. He recognized the word virgin was so powerful. I was talking to somebody, this woman, and she's in Texas, and I didn't know this. I'm in Southern California, but she says, "Oh yeah, there's Virgin hotels all over the place." I said, "Is it the same one?" "Oh yeah, it's the same logo. It's definitely Richard Branson's hotels. They're called Virgin Hotels."
Yeah, virgin's
Cool.
a powerful word, except in my dating profile because I haven't got any feedback yet on that. So, I mean,
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, but just when
there
you
you
start to
go. Thank you
realize,
for the support.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just um, Bill Clinton, James Carville was helping Bill Clinton become president of the United States. When he became president of the United States, on his way to becoming it, James Carville, his assistant, came up with the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid." Not it's the economy, but it's the economy, stupid. And that became one of his main slogans. And he became president because of the economy. The economy was bad.
So, do you think that a catchy name is more important than the product? Can the product be mediocre, but if you have a killer name, a viral name, that your business will be just fine?
Yeah, but you you make a lot more money. I see this once I started recognizing brain glue, which is about maybe 8 or 9 years ago that I discovered it was brain glue. I started to realize how rich people are. They tend to be a lot richer than everybody else. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're starting a hotel, okay? You want to call it Hooters? You think Hooters is a successful? These guys are millionaires. They're
Yeah, I like to think so.
multi-millionaires. I mean, it's just. In fact, I live in Southern California, in Thousand Oaks, and they were going to open up a Hooters restaurant in Thousand Oaks. And Hooters doesn't have naked women, okay? I mean, they wear bikini types, stuff, but shorts, but and good-looking women, all that stuff. But that's cool. But it sounds like it's the Playboy Club, right?
Yeah.
Hooters. And so we have people that were protesting. They wouldn't allow Hooters to build one of their restaurants in Thousand Oaks. So of course they built it next to Thousand Oaks, the next city now. But it's like I'm looking at it and going, "It's Hooters. It's not it." There's something about the name that makes people show up there or hate it.
Right, right. Well, then there was
And
a spin-off even of it too, like, Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Yep, that was one of
Yeah,
his buddies that left
oh, that was one of his
started his own.
buddies, huh?
Yep. Yeah, Twin Peaks. I didn't know Twin Peaks until I was doing the research, and it's like, oh, that's what Twin Peaks is all about. I get it.
Yeah, away with those owls, we're gonna go see mountains.
That's right, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. But it just it sticks to the brain like glue. And these things, when it sticks in, Hooters, you only have to. They don't even have to spend money on advertising. You just have to have a good location and put the name Hooters up there. People are going to go like, "What the hell's that?
that's right.
Hooters? That's pretty cool. I got to check it out." I
Do you
remember In-N-Out Burgers that uses another tool called chiasmus, which is a flip, like all for one and one for all. It's a flip like that, in and out. Okay, it's like the Beatles have a song that uses chiasmus. They go, "You say yes, I say no. You say stop, and I say go, go, go." It's opposites. Okay, so In-N-Out Burgers, they didn't have a lot of money. It was a family business. But they got a location that was near a McDonald's. Obviously, it's got to be near other restaurants. And they didn't have enough money to build an inside restaurant, so they made it a drive-through restaurant. So they wanted to come up with a name, and so they came up with In and Out, which is called chiasmus. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's opposites, okay? And In and Out also means sex to a lot of people.
That's right.
And I remember I'm driving down the street with my wife to go to a McDonald's, and we pass In and Out, and I look at it. Oh, there's In and Out. In and Out? We got to check that out. We checked it out, and of course, you have to have good product. If you have crappy product, Pringle is not going to help you. But how many people have really good product, but you struggle? Well, the guys from In-N-Out Burger, the family, are like multimillionaires. They're in California and a bunch of Western states. They expand like crazy. They have good product, but they also have a great name, and it's the name that grabs people's attention. Because if you have like $10 million, if you're a big company, and I work with companies like Kraft Foods and stuff like that, and they'll often have $10 million and more to spend on advertising. So you can have a crappy name; it's not going to make a difference because you're spending $10 million. Okay.
The job that I would love to entertain is like the creative side of that, of like being a consultant and coming up with these creative names or jingles or something.
Right.
How do you get involved with that?
Well, buy my book,
Yeah.
Brain Glue.
I will for sure.
Yeah, but no, it's just people are doing it all the time. I got people who are changing the names of their, they just hear this and they start changing the name of their product. Yeah, and it's you have to understand that sometimes it takes guts. So I know this guy named David Baer, Baer, and he and his partner have a company that works with advertisers.
Right.
Okay, it helps them grow their business. Advertisers, people, small advertisers. Some guy who works out of their home or something, but they have an advertising company. And so I couldn't remember the name of their company, but I said, your name is Bear. I got a perfect name for your company, Bear Naked Advertising. And like you were saying with Naked Juice, the naked is like natural. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, you should call it Bear Naked Advertising. His partner starts laughing and goes, yes, nobody remembers our name. We have to call it that. But he goes, I don't know if I want naked next to my name. So he never did it,
Interesting.
which is nuts because bare naked advertising I'm willing to bet because I've worked with so many companies and people who have had products and we changed the name of the product and sales exploded.
Yeah.
That he doesn't understand that his sales would actually go up even more. I still honestly can't remember the name of their company, but if
Bare
it was called
naked
Bare
is
Naked
nuts.
Advertising, I'd remember it.
Literally
Yeah,
nuts.
exactly. So yeah, that's you just we want a name that does two things. Okay, the first
Yeah.
thing it does is it grabs their attention because all of us are so overwhelmed with advertising and stuff on our phones and everything else that guys who wear hats and all that stuff that have advertising on them that we're overwhelmed with knowledge and information that's being thrown at us. So then people will see your ad or see your sign or whatever else it is or your book, you know, uh, Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus or whatever, and the first thing it's got to do is grab their attention because they just look at it and they pass over it really fast. That's the first thing it does. And then the second thing, it's got to talk about, it's got to wake them up so they go like, hey, I got to check this out. This is pretty cool. Okay. And so metaphors is one of the tools. Okay. So um, Paul Tran invented an electric razor for man's private areas, electric shaver for man's private areas. Okay, I don't know why I got into this stuff, but it's a good example.
We all have, brother.
Yeah, exactly. And so he goes, so I need to come up with a name that people will know what the product is, but I don't want to offend people. So I can come up with, so I need to come up with a name. So it's just like a lawnmower. Why don't I call it the lawnmower? In fact, he changed the name of his company to Manscaped. We're going to
Yeah.
landscape the man with the lawnmower. Sales exploded.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of the most creative ones, like the bushwhacker that they
Yeah,
got.
exactly. Yeah, it's just, but so for the lawnmower, I remember I was in like a Bed Bath and Beyond or something like that with my wife. She was looking to buy something, and they had a big poster, and it said a white poster, and it said the lawnmower. It had an arrow and pointed to the electric razor. Underneath that, it had text, and I'm like, what the hell, a lawnmower? What's that? And there were two guys over there reading it, and I went over and I'm reading it. And I go, oh, we're all start laughing. One of the guys bought it. Okay. So I never bought the lawnmower. I don't know. I didn't need it or whatever. But if I bought the lawnmower, I could see him calling my friend Joe. Hey, Joe, did you guess what I just bought? What? The lawnmower. Oh, you have to mow your lawn? No, it's to shave man's private
Yeah.
areas.
God, trim my
Oh,
bush.
I could hear him calling his wife. Hey, Mary, guess what James just bought? What? The lawnmower. Oh, he has to mow his lawn? No, it's to shave his private areas. And suddenly it takes off like viral advertising.
That's
And so
really good. Yeah.
that's what we want is we want to come up with a name that goes viral, a name that grabs their attention and helps them understand, what their product is. I have this friend who has an IT company, internet technology, So his slogan is, "We take the SH out of IT."
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, just I mean, we want to grab attention, and so the first thing you want to do is you want to. I know this woman, she spent no money, not a nickel, and she has more than 5 million fans on Facebook. Okay, how do you get
Ye
that?
yeah.
Well, she wanted to create a page on Facebook. She's a stay-at-home mom, and so she's going, well, okay, why don't I talk about myself, mommy? What does mommy need? Mommy needs time to herself. Mommy needs a rest. It's exhausting being a mommy. Oh, I know what mommy needs. Mommy needs vodka. So she creates this page, Mommy Needs Vodka. So one of my friends must be one of her fans, and I got a copy of one of the posts she has, and it's really funny. I said, "Oh, that's a pretty cool post." Oh, wait, it's by Mommy Needs Vodka. What the hell's
I
that?
said, "What?"
Clicked on that, went to her page. I liked her other posts, and I suddenly became a fan.
Wow.
Okay. And she has over 5 million fans. She wasn't selling anything. Today she's trying to sell stuff on it because she has so many fans. But I
Right.
mean, it's one. How many people have really great Facebook pages, and yet you don't have 5 million fans, and you try to spend money on advertising or marketing, and yet here's this woman who spends zero, and she has more than 5 million fans. And that's why
Yeah,
we want to
all
learn that.
organic too.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's why we want to learn how to grab attention. When you learn how to grab it, I mean, if you're trying to sell something, you want to grab attention. And by the way, it also works if you're trying to kill a competitor. um, so there's people that hated Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread was around for like about 100 years, and they invented sliced bread. So
Wonder
um,
Bread did?
yeah, Wonder Bread invented sliced
They're
bread.
the
They often have
inventors
we have
of
the
sliced
phrase.
bread?
Yeah, that we say, "Well, that's the greatest thing since sliced bread." We don't
Yeah.
realize we're actually referring to Wonder Bread. They
Oh,
invented
man.
sliced bread.
Wow,
And
I
so
didn't
for
know.
10 years, they dominated the bread market, and other bread suppliers hated them. Okay, and it's bleached white bread. They came up with a slogan, the whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead,
Whoa.
and almost threw them into bankruptcy. So what happened is we had COVID. Back then, they had this thing, this disease that was, I even forget the name of the disease, pellagra, that's what it was.
Pellagra?
Pellagra was called. And people would die or would get really sick, like COVID. And it was because there's an absence of vitamin B3 in the system. Now they have niacin. They put niacin in products, and it adds vitamin B3. But back then, it was bleached bread, and because they bleached a Wonder Bread, it killed off all the vitamins and minerals.
Right.
And so the competitors actually said to journalists, "The whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead." Do you realize that? They want to know. So yeah, yeah, and they started explaining how it's lacking vitamin B3, and Wonder Bread went from dominating the bread industry to almost bankrupt almost overnight.
Wow.
Okay, they invented Wonder Bread invented, when you start putting vitamins and minerals in your food, and they put up and they put in niacin, which adds the vitamin B3, and it helped them recover. They never became the dominant anymore, but they did recover and stop going. But they literally almost went bankrupt because the competitors came up with the phrase, "The whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead."
I like that. That's some warfare right there.
Oh yeah, and it's
Right?
but they
Yeah.
use it in the elections. Biden knocked the socks off Trump for the first time because of Biden's Build Back Better, right?
Right, right.
Not only that, but that's it. Now he lost this time because it wasn't actually built back or better. But
Right.
anyway, don't want to get into that. But I mean, from a politician standpoint, buh, 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 alliteration, the repetition of sound. You got Best Buy, Build a Bear, Bed Bath and Beyond. Okay, and it doesn't have to be just bees, but a lot of B words. Okay, Weight Watchers. You think it's a coincidence? Woo woo. Weight Watchers. PayPal. Coca Cola. TikTok. I had this guy who's starting he has a haircut place, and he was asking me, I think I want to turn it into a franchise. What would be a good name for a franchise? So I'm going haircut. Okay, Haircut Heroes. And they're going like, oh, what a cool name, Haircut Heroes. That would be a cool name for a haircut place. Alliteration, repetition of sound. And so, yeah, this when you start to learn these tools, you start realizing like, whoa, I can come up with a name or a phrase that's rhymes, or or uses alliteration or repetition of sound or one of the other tools. I got 14 tools, and people go through this and they go like, "Whoa, hey!" They call me or send me an email showing me what they came up with, and then they call me back in about 6 months and say, "Look how much money I made."
That's
It's actually
cool.
really cool.
Let's get a little bit more philosophical. I want to know where you think ideas come from.
Well, so when I started in sales, I hated sales. Today, I love sales. I have to understand the science of how selling works, and I teach people sales. And Brain Glue is a lot about sales. But when I was young and I hated sales, I went to a Zig Ziglar workshop with my wife. And he changed my life because he said this thing that was profound. And he said, selling is nothing more than a transference of passion. If you're passionate about something, if you saw a movie you love, you go like, "Oh man, this movie, The Martian." I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Martian. I
I have
love that movie, and you don't have
years.
to tell me how to sell it. It's like, man, it was awesome, whatever else it is, okay? And so when you understand that selling is nothing more than a transference of passion, and then we understand that school taught us to be logical. But you need emotion. You need to trigger emotion because people buy for emotional reasons. In marketing, we have this term. We say we want people to know, like, and trust you. That's emotion. If you don't like somebody, are you going to buy something from him? If the guy's a creep or a jerk, probably
Creep.
not, unless you're about to die and you need what he's got. But usually, you get, and it's
The
emotion.
man.
And so what you want with your product is the same thing. You want a name. I'll go back to the squatty potty. This nurse told me about. I love the name so much. I ended up buying the squatty potty. It's like, but you already have one. I know, but it was so cool. I own squatty potty now. It's like, okay. She's
Yeah.
laughing. Laughers are buyers. You don't only have to make them laugh, but laughers are buyers. And so for alliteration, okay, let's say, which is the repetition of sound. So let's say you create a glue, okay, a really cool glue. And so I always do a metaphor first. It's just like, okay, like the lawnmower. Okay, it's just like a lawnmower. So it's just like what? So it's as strong as an elephant. Okay, so that's one. But let's use alliteration, the repetition of sound. Glue, gorilla glue. Gorilla glue knocked the socks off this thing called JB Weld. I know a ton of people in construction who say JB Weld is much better than Gorilla Glue. And yet you go to the store, and you'll see there's tons of Gorilla Glue, and there's like no JB Weld has like two samples if they have any, or two examples. And it's because the name sticks to the brain like glue. It's really
Ah.
cool.
So when you're coming up with ideas, what is your method? Like, when do your ideas pop into your head? Like, are you asleep and then something will pop into your head? Is it like when you're running, when you're doing activities? Like, when do you find the best time to channel these creative ideas?
Well, buy the book first of all, because the book gives you lots of examples. But I want to give you an example. So Jack Canfield wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he sold so many books. He sold 100 million Chicken Soup for the Souls, and 400 million of the other ones: Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, Chicken Soup for the Cancer Survivor Soul, and all that. And he sold 60 other bestsellers. But he's telling me about Chicken Soup for the Soul. When he bought my book, and he's forcing everybody in his company to read it and use it, okay? Because he wants to compete against everybody else, and he realizes this is the secret. But he's telling me, so when he came up with the book, it's 101 stories, motivating stories that'll change your life. And he's going, I guess we can call it 101 motivating stories that'll change your life, but I don't want to call it that. He didn't realize why, he said back then. After he read my book, he said, now I understand why. But emotionally, he said, I want a more emotional title. And it took him about a month, and then he realized, chicken soup makes you feel good if you're sick often. My book is like chicken soup. Why don't I call it Chicken Soup for the Spirit? It doesn't totally work, but it's kind of close. Chicken Soup for the Spirit. And then he said for a weekend he had sleepless nights. And then he said SOUP soup SOUL soul. It's alliteration. Okay, it kind of goes with the sound. Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's the title. And then he came up with the title, and because of that, he became massively wealthy. Okay,
Doesn't it
and he
just
said
seem
he
like
didn't
some of
realize
these
it,
things
but
like
he's
just are
emotional.
are meant to be? It almost just seems like it's meant to be. Like, that's a perfect title. That's a perfect name.
Well, but let's go back to Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus. You know, he wrote the book, he loved the book, and he called it Men, Women, and Relationships. Logical. Okay. And then he was in this seminar where he's trying to promote the book, and he said something, and all the women started laughing, and all the men looked at the women and went, "What's so funny?" And then he said, "You see, there are some things that women laugh at and men don't get. There's some things that men laugh at and women don't get. There's some things that everybody laughs at." And so one of the women said, "It's almost like men are from a different planet. What planet do you think men are from?" And he goes, "Men are from Mars." And everybody started laughing. But when he got home, he's thinking, "Okay, men are from Mars. That got everybody, more people to interact with my talking about my book than anything else I said.
Yeah.
If men are from Mars, where are women from? Well, women are from Venus. Venus is the god of love. Huh. What if I call it Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus, and then just go through the book and refer to that, but keep the same book? As you know, I talked about this, but it came emotionally. And what we need is we need to emotionally trigger the person. I have these business to business companies, okay,
Yeah.
and they do this all the time. Is these guys, these 4 or 5 guys, are partners in this company that sell rags, and they sell them to like car dealerships and car repair places and stuff like that. And they wanted a really cool name, so one of the funny name for rags is pigs. He said, I don't, one of the guys said, "I don't know why, but they call them pigs. You got any pigs? So why don't we call our company New Pig Corporation?" They have a catalog. They call it the Pigalog. Okay. They became, they're almost $1 billion company. These guys couldn't believe it. They would have a salesman, one of the partners first, but eventually started growing, and had hats made with a pig's nose on the front and a pig's tail on the back. And they said, "If you buy rags from us, I'll give you one of these hats." And they were like, "Yeah, okay." And they're competing with other rag sellers, okay? And yet they became almost $1 billion company, you know, over about 20 years, but still they became about $1 billion company, and they're laughing. Laughers are buyers. You know, "Hey, we're New Pig Corporation." "Really? What do you sell? Pigs?" "Oh, rags." "Okay, but I'll give you a pig hat." "Okay."
All right,
You know,
sure.
and they became like rich, and but laughing. You know, I saw this guy who had a T-shirt and it said, "Life sucks and then you die." And I'm like, "No, this is life right now. You gotta have fun with it." And so, you know, if you know, laughers are buyers. If you can get somebody laughing, there's a good chance they're going to buy. You know, from you. Not always. You don't have to be funny, but if you can be funny, so be it. You know. And it just makes me realize, like, we got to have fun right now. If you're selling a product or a service, you know, you still want to have as much fun as possible. You know, laughing, they discovered this, that people who laugh a lot live longer. It actually helps your body because it triggers oxytocin, which actually makes your body fight off all kinds of illnesses. It's really good.
You know what a woman told me one time, and I'll never forget this, is that she was looking at me and she's like, "What I find most attractive is that you kind of have some wrinkles below your eyes." I'm like, "Why would you find that kind of attractive?" Cause I know that you smile and laugh a lot."
Exactly. There you go.
Right? I was like,
Exactly.
"Wow." Yeah, I was like, "You just changed my life forever by saying that." Because when I note like, if I notice that in the mirror, I'm kinda like, "Oh, man, I'm getting older, this sucks." Then someone else sees it as, "You must have a good time because you laugh and smile a lot, so that's why you're creased up right there by your eyes. You seem like
Oh,
a jolly person."
women, it's the easiest way to attract women. I have this guy, I have quite a few people that said this, but this guy's telling me, you know, I was able to pick up, I was trying to get you know, I could pick up girls easier using stuff from your book. I'm like, it's not really made for that. But he says, no, no, no. He said, there's this woman, gorgeous. She is I love her, you know, but I have no idea how to get a date with her. But because in the book I talk about the fact that there is an honest moment. You know, you want to say something that you know, something about yourself. Like I would say, I'm in marketing, and when I saw Steve Jobs got a camera on a phone, I'm like, who needs a camera on a phone?
Right,
You know,
right.
boy, was I clueless.
Yeah,
I'm
boy, were
supposed to
you
be this
wrong.
marketing guy, okay? I mean, I used to see how many pictures I have on my phone. Okay, so he says I used that. I went and I said, um, I have, you know, I don't have no idea what to say to go on a date with you, but I really want to go on a date with you. Can you help me and tell me some of the things I would have to say to you that would make you interested enough that you want to go on a date with me?" And she
Pretty good.
starts laughing. I start
Pretty good.
laughing.
I'm not gonna lie,
And
it's pretty good.
he said, "I'm on my second date with her now. It's awesome. I love her. I'm probably going to marry her. I love,
That's
love, love
awesome.
her."
That's good.
But
Hey,
yeah, it's just,
communication is key. What can I say?
yeah, exactly. Well,
Uh,
you got to interact. You got to interact.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you what you think the best invention out there is.
The best invention?
The best invention. What do you think is the best invention? Obviously, it's subjective, but what do you think the best invention is? I'll tell you what mine is. Mine's the car. I think the car is the best thing that we have on this
Okay.
earth. You know, just because I was imagining while you're thinking, I'll tell you a little bit about. I was driving down the road and it was cold out and it was raining. I'm like, man, I couldn't imagine being on a horse or in a buggy or walking down like this path of road for miles to get to a destination.
Right.
I'm so comfortable right now with heated seats. I have a windshield wiper. My car is enclosed. I have doors. I have windows. I have heat. I have AC. Like, let's not take that for granted. So I'm thinking the car makes a pretty good bet on what the best invention is. I just think it's amazing. I was really falling in love with my car while I was driving it, thinking about how poor folks, like poor people back in the day, had to like just walk everywhere, ride a horse, and come in terms with nature. What if
Right.
it's a blizzard? You're done for.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
like parachutes, or I like cars. I agree. I like planes. I think planes are really cool. But I think parachutes are cool because you jump out of an airplane and just
That's an
come down.
interesting one.
Yeah, well, yeah, really. But I saw these guys, and I definitely want to get one of these. That they have this thing that's like a parachute, and they have a fan that's connected to it,
Oh
and you're on
yeah.
the ground, and you use the fan, and it gets you up in the air, and then you can move it, go forward, go backwards, and all that stuff. And you actually fly around with this fan and this parachute type thing.
Oh, I
It's
know what you're
amazing.
talking about. You, sir, are a thrill seeker. You are James Bond. That goes hand
Yeah,
in hand. Shit.
yeah, exactly. What can I say?
All right, and now, is there something on your mind that was like the worst invention? Something that you see is just like, why does this exist?
Huh.
I'll tell you mine while you think of it. I thought of this when I was a little kid, so it holds true to my heart, and that's homework. Homework sucks, and I wish it was
Okay.
never invented.
Well, it's gotta be cool. If you have some cool homework, it's fun. You gotta have some
Well,
friends.
that's right. That's right.
I mean, if you just, I hated math. And
That's what I'm
oh
talking
my,
about. Yeah, math sucked. They said
yeah,
you would never have a calculator in your pocket, and now look at us. We have a freaking NASA computer.
yeah, exactly. Well, I was working with finance guys. Okay, I was doing coaching for finance guys. By the way, um, so I use trigger words with them. Okay, so they would do an analysis of somebody's um, insurance policy. They would look at the insurance policy and then they come back and give them feedback on it. And I said, so you got to use the word vomit. Vomit? Yeah. I said, just, you tell them, I don't want you to vomit, but did you see what's in this thing? And they go like, what? Because we used the word vomit. But I so math, and I don't hate math, although there was a time in my life when I did. But a lot of people hate math. I think more than half the people in the world hate math.
Fair.
And so these guys were talking. These two guys were talking to this famous musician. I don't want to say who it was, and they're trying to talk him into doing this. He's invested some stuff with them, and they're talking to him about how much money he's going to make. You're going to make like 8% or I don't know whatever the percentage was on this thing. It's going to really help you. And I could see the musicians kind of looking at him with glassy eyes, just like, oh, when you're talking money at me, you're throwing percentages. Who cares, And I said, hey, look, and this is true. I said, John Lennon used it before he died, and helped him save most of his money so he could pass it on to his family.
Oh,
He said, John Lennon used it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm very interested. Okay. But when the guy was throwing numbers at him, he was like,
yeah.
who cares? I
Unrelatable.
just, yeah, I have this great line. It goes, uh, Americans discard 2.5 million plastic bottles every hour. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What if I told you that's enough to reach the moon every 3 weeks?
Jeez. That hits a
Yeah.
little bit more
What?
home.
Whoa. Now
Yeah.
you have perspective,
Yeah, perspective. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and
You have
people,
to
because
understand your audience and then perspective.
and that's why you gotta explain stuff in such a way that people understand what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
can't, people will be talking about it forever. I have this guy who's a chiropractor, and he was in one of my workshops, and so I'm talking to him, and I said, "So tell me about." It. He says, "Well, we have spine da 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 Korea,
Right.
whatever the heck it was. I don't even remember what he said." And I said, "Does anybody understand what he just said? Raise your hand." Nobody did. And I said, "What is it?" He said, and as he's describing it, I said, "You should call yourself the straight spine specialist. We have this device that helps your spine go straight, so you actually can walk farther without having pain. You can carry stuff without having pain and everything else. It's the
Beautiful.
straight spine specialist." I said,
Yeah.
"You're talking about a technical term, and then nobody knows what you're talking about, but you explain this to everybody." He said, "Yeah, that's part of my pitch." I said, "Yeah, how many people become your clients?"
It's part of my
Well,
pitch.
there's a pause. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we got to make it easy. Einstein has a really good line.
Like, does
He
your
said,
spine look like the McDonald's arches? We
"Yeah,
can help you
yeah, well,
out.
that's a good one. Yeah, exactly. Excellent." Well, but Albert Einstein, was the world's smartest man, had a really good line, and he said, "If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you probably don't understand it well enough."
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that. That's very believable. I
And it's
understand that
profound.
too.
He used to go across the street when he was living in Austria. He used to go across the street, and there was a park across the street with little kids, and he would describe his stuff to little kids. And if they didn't understand it, he would figure out how to describe it in such a way that they would understand it.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. That's really
Well,
good.
but everything we say, we have to do it the same way. We got to describe it. If I said I got to, this brain glue is so powerful, it grabs attention like a naked man running through your backyard. What?
Right.
I mean, it's like, okay, maybe that's not the best one, but it's just, I mean, the lawnmower, everybody knows what that is once you hear it once.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
Yeah.
got to make it easier for people to understand what we're offering, and emotionally trigger their brain so that they go like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Right. That goes back to the chiropractor. Like, you probably have a wonderful understanding yourself, but what's your ability to relay that to in layman's terms to like regular people?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I
Yeah.
said so it helps with a straight spine, straighten
Yeah.
out your spine. Who cares?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And he goes, "Oh, no, no, you don't understand because you start
I
showing the stuff.
understand perfectly. All
It
right.
takes him like 15 or 20 minutes to explain something. I
Oh
I
yeah.
call it the 6-second selling. Okay?
Yeah.
Within 6 seconds, you got to explain enough that people go like, "Whoa. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more." If you can't do it in 6 seconds, then you don't understand it well enough to be able to sell it.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more thing before we wrap this up, and I want to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast and spending some time with us. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
your podcast is awesome. You guys, anybody who's listening to this one, you got to listen to some of the other ones. They're awesome. I was almost late because I was listening to another one of your podcasts. So,
James Bond's the man. You're awesome. Let me ask you this. This is kind of out there, but I'm curious because everything around us came from an idea. Everything you see
uh
came from an idea, right? All these inventions, like the
hmm
if you're sitting at a chair right now, someone made it. A desk, a microphone, blah 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 blah. Do you entertain the simulation theory?
What do you mean?
The simulation theory, like this is a simulation. This is a virtual reality. It's not real. Have you ever heard of that before?
No,
You've never heard of that before?
no.
Oh my god, dude, I'm gonna have to send you some information on this.
Okay.
Jeez. That essentially we live in a video game is where this, and you're gonna say that I'm batshit crazy because this is the first time you've heard of it, but some serious scientists are looking into this. Elon Musk has talked about there's like some real serious hard-headed scientists that are
Yeah,
trying to
Musk
make it
rock.
they're trying to make a case for this. And I was just wondering if you entertain that idea just because the time we live in right now just seems so convenient to be alive at this exact moment with all of the inventions
Oh
around us,
yeah.
like, the
Oh
car,
yeah.
the computer, everything's just so convenient, right?
Oh well, I grew up with. I'm old enough. I'm an old. I remember black and white TV, and then we had color TV, and then we had, we didn't have phones that we carried around with us. I mean, it's really cool to see all the changes that happen. By the way, in marketing, we have a term that's called verisimilitude, which is the perception of reality. And it's one of the things we let people know. Reality doesn't exist. Everything is perception. So if you think something is good or something is bad,
Yes.
it's our
Yeah.
perception. If I think that's, wow, you invented this phone with a camera in it. Who needs that? It was stupid. It
Right.
was my
Right.
perception. Once I started using it, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you just answered it right there. I mean, geez,
We're
that
really creative. I think it's one of those things. That's why Elon Musk is amazing,
yeah.
because he isn't just rich, but he invents really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just he's like having fun creating stuff, and I think that the best companies we have, that we work with, or the best products we have, are creative. I mean,
Something
his
tells
dad
me that he's
taught
a
him.
Martian.
Yeah,
Trying
really.
trying to get back to Mars because he's so
Well,
obsessed with going to Mars.
But I went through Steve Jobs in his life, okay,
Yeah.
and all of it. Like, I mean, and so Steve Jobs, his dad taught him that when you make a phone or any device, but a computer, phone, or everything else, the part that's inside the container that nobody sees should still be as good as the outside. He makes
Yeah.
boxes. If you bought an Apple computer or an Apple phone, the box was amazing. People would save the box because the box was so cool. You
True.
know, and you got
Yeah.
to understand it. If you want people to be passionate about what you're doing, you want to try to make every little piece of it passionate. What I'm amazed by is, so people say, yeah, but we want to get it to the market. Well, you can still get it to the market pretty fast, but if you take a little bit of time, you can make it so much better. You know, and it's fun. I work with this. One of the companies I work with makes electronic devices, and different departments didn't talk to each other. The R&D department, research and development department, and the construction, the engineers who make the product, never talked to each other. And the reason they didn't was the R&D people didn't want to get ideas. They wanted to come up with the best ideas, so they didn't want to get the engineers that make the products. They didn't want to meet in a room together with them.
I can understand that kind of, like, you don't wanna understand the technicalities of it, like, how it actually works. It might kinda taint your brain.
Yeah, but then we got them sitting together, working together, and they were all coming up with products. It took them 4 years to come up with a new product. When 60 and 80 days, a little over 2 months, they came up with the hottest selling product they ever came up with
Well, there you go.
by interacting
Well,
with each
yeah,
other.
what do you want from me? There you go. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
what's the saying? "The answer's in the pudding." How's it go? Is that the saying? You know what I'm talking about? Something's
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
pudding.
yeah.
Anyways, James, I appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for sharing some knowledge with us. You can just tell that you are passionate. You found what you love and you're doing it. So, greatly
Thank you, Jay,
appreciate
for
you,
having
man.
me.
Thanks for being out there.
Yeah, well, it's fun. Life's fun. We got to have fun.
I agree. I agree. How can people find you? Do you got social media? And then let people know how they can buy your book.
Well, if you go to you can go to, it's on Amazon, so you can go to Amazon. But if you go to yesbrainglue.com, yes, brain glue, I've got tons of information on it, so I think you find it really interesting.
Cool. Awesome. Bond, James Bond. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for taking the time. Pleasure talking with you, man.
You too, Jay. You're lots of fun.
All right. Thank you. Everyone at home, be good. We'll see you later on the next one. Peace out.
Welcome to the Curiosity Chamber.